Here is the tools that I will be using to terminate the ends of this Cat6A shielded twisted pair riser CMR cable. A riser cable is rated for in-wall installations. This cable here is from Elite Cables. The Klein Tools Crimper is nice for removing the sheath, and make sure when you do that you rotate all the way around. Give yourself maybe a couple inches or inch and a half, and make sure you go all the way around, or else you'll have a messy tear off. The next thing you need to do is remove the shielding, which is just this thin aluminum sheet. There's a little silver wire here, grounding wire, too, that you'll need to pull back. Sometimes you can just tear it off, but this one's a little thicker, so I'll need some scissors to chop it off. So that little thin silver wire that you can see there, pull that down and then snip it off. Next thing, you'll have some plastic wrap around the outside that's clear. So pull that back with your fingers and then cut it off with some scissors. I have to twist the cable around some, so that's why I keep moving it upside down and upside up. Now bend down the pairs of wires. There are 4 pairs. And then the plastic piece in the middle, cut off with scissors. Make sure you cut it low enough, but don't cut it too low, because if you try too hard, you'll end up making the twisted pair damaged, and you'll have to start over. So I'm untwisting the pairs. You can do it with just your fingers, but I like starting out at least with little pliers. I separate them cleanly so I can straighten out each wire afterwards. You can straighten these out with your fingers, but if you want to be extra tedious, you can use some pliers. I like to use pliers, it just kind of makes it easier for me. But it does take a while to do this. It's a little tedious. But of course I'm going slow so that it's easy for people to learn how to do this. If you're using pliers, you'll need to try at different angles to get the wires straight, because they bend in 3D. So now that your wires are shaped up, you can go ahead and start lining them up in the order of T568B. We use T568B instead of T568A. B is the standard we use in this business, and also most businesses that I have seen. So going from the wire that goes in pin 8 on the connector, it's solid brown, striped brown, solid green, striped blue, striped green, solid orange, striped orange. So that was pin 8 to pin 1. What we're going to use is, we're not using pass-through connectors, which are very common. This tutorial we are using AUCAS, which has connectors which have a a wire guide that has slots in it, which is very useful so that when you crimp the tool, the keys on the end will slide right into the wires instead of missing them. Sometimes when you're just using pass-through connectors, the keys will slide to the side of the wire rather than actually making contact with the copper, and that will really mess you up. You may have to redo ends several times to get it right. Most of the time the pass-through ones work fine for me, but sometimes I have to redo them a few times depending on the particular cable I purchase. So size up where you need your wires to be cut, and I like them a little bit longer at first than I need so that we can put the wire guide in and then cut the wires to size. It can be difficult to slide these in. If you want, you can have your wires really long and then insert them in one by one to the holes. But oftentimes I like to just do it this way. You just slide them in all at once, but you gotta be careful about the wires bending, because you may have to pull it off and then straighten wires again and then redo it. It can be a little tough when it's this short to pull the wires through, so I made it a little bit shorter than I normally cut the wires before I start this. You want to make sure that with this wire guide you put it the right way up, with the slots facing up. If you're starting with the pin 8 is brown, solid brown, towards your right side, you want to have the wire guide with the slots facing up so that the keys can go directly into those slots. It doesn't matter if the wires on the end outside of the wire guide on the top are bent. you can bend them whatever direction you need, because you're just going to cut them off when you're done. I use the pliers to help pull some of the wires through that are down farther and they don't want to get pushed through very easily. Sometimes when you slide them through, they go through really quick and easily. Sometimes they take more effort to straighten out. Just depends on how you've lined it up. So this time I had a little bit of trouble, so I had to pull them with the pliers more than I usually do. Now you can size up. You want the sheath to go inside the connector. You do not want to have any bare wires, or I mean not bare wires, but just wires that are visible outside of the connector on the base. So make sure you push it all the way up so it's flat and snug. Now that I've got my size, I can cut it. And then you can push it against a desk or some flat surface to make sure that all the ends are flat. And now you can slide on the connector. Make sure the pins slots are facing up. So we slide on the connector, make sure the sheath goes up inside of it. You may have to compress the sheath with a pliers. And the sheath may not go in the back, so you got to make sure you look at the back to make sure the sheath doesn't get bunched up. When it's in, all the wires should be at the very top of the connector, and you can see the order of the wires. Verify that they're correct. The sheath should be inside the connector, and when you crimp, make sure that you press down all the way, make sure it's a solid gripped crimp. And then it's important to test your cable to make sure that all of the pairs are good.